Okay, we're going to continue working on our very basic shape, fill, stroke kind of lesson here. And we're going to add to the cabin that we already started with. We have our tools on the left, our palettes on the right. If, again, you have lost some things or need to set up your workspace, that would be Window, Workspace, Basic. Okay, everything I need is all still where I left it, so I think I'm good to get started. Now we're going to make two trees, one on the right and one on the left of our cabin. The first tree we're going to make is your basic lollipop tree you probably made in kindergarten, right? So you're going to do a tree trunk, which is a rectangle. Now I still have no stroke and just a fill, which is what I want, but I want to change the fill color to any shade of brown, whatever shade you think would look good for your tree. So there's the trunk, and I'm going to make a tree top using an ellipse, which is another way of saying oval or circle. So the ellipse tool, if I held down shift, it would make a perfect circle. Or if I let go of shift, I can kind of stretch that ellipse or that oval to whatever I want. I'm going to make it kind of long, skinny oval. Okay? Now I need to make sure I have my black arrow so I can adjust this and put it on top of the tree. If I wanted to squish it down a little bit more, I could do that. And then I want to make sure it's a shade of green. So I'm going to choose a nice shade of green over here. So I've got a rectangle and a circle. Your basic little lollipop tree. I do want to group these two pieces together before I go any further because I don't want the top coming apart from the bottom. So review from the last lesson is drag around both pieces and then object group. Now some people get nervous about that because they're like, but wait, I wanted to change that circle. You can always ungroup something. If you click on it and decide you want to change it, you can always go object, ungroup, and then make your change and continue from there. Okay, so there's a tree on the right. The tree on the left, click and hold to get your rectangle tool. Let's make a skinnier trunk on this one on the left. And it's green, so obviously my trunk needs to be a shade of brown. I'm just going to go with a really light brown on that one. And now we're going to make this one a triangle tree, kind of like a pine tree. Now we learned how to make a triangle using our star tool for the roof of the cabin. So potentially it's already set to a star, but remember, or to a triangle, but remember you can go up arrow or down arrow and shift to make it straight up and down. So there's a lot to this tool. It does a lot of things. So I'm going to make just a nice little triangle and place it on my trunk and make it a shade of darker green for a pine tree. And this one I want to be nice and skinny and pointy. So I'm just going to use my little bounding box and my black arrow to customize that tree. So now I've got my tree and my trunk, and I'm going to group those two pieces together. Drag around both, object, group. Okay, so I've got a tree on the left, a tree on the right, and I need to make a forest. So to create a forest, we're going to start duplicating. And to duplicate in Illustrator, you can use your Option key. So if I click on my pine tree and I hold down Option, you'll notice two arrows pop up. That means that when I drag this tree and let go, I'm going to get a copy of it. So I'm just going to do about 5 copies. I'll put one right on top of my cabin too. And then I'm going to get my lollipop tree and Option drag 5 copies. Okay, so I've got a forest here. It's not really looking so hot though, because forests have a lot of variety, and this forest has no variety. They're all the same size, and my cabin kind of disappeared way back there, but we're going to fix that right now. So let's click on the cabin, and we want to bring it to front. Just like you send it back, you can bring to front. Luckily, we had already grouped our cabin. So we're going to go Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Now that our cabin's in the front, let's scooch it down a bit. I'm leaving a lot of space up here because we're going to use this space later on for some more technique. Okay, so now that I've got my trees, I'm going to make some variety to them. Now remember, if you hold shift, you can strain your proportions. If you don't hold shift, you can still shrink, but your proportions will change, and that's okay because we want variety here. So I'm going to just make some adjustments. Some of my trees I'm going to make bigger, some I'm going to make closer together. All of my pine trees are in the front, so I might send a couple to back. Okay, so I'm just kind of working my forest around here, making it a little bit more unique. All three of these trees are the same, so I'm going to make some variety here. Maybe I'll make this pine tree nice and big. This one over here, this one over here. Take one of these guys. Maybe I'll even make a copy of this guy, another copy, and make it really tiny, kind of close to the cabin, and bring it to the front. So this really isn't matching mine. You can do whatever you want. The cabin, I made you match my colors because I wanted to make sure you knew the technique. But this part, go for it. Have fun with it. Make your forest look the way you want it to look. Okay, I think I'm happy with mine for now. It's just kind of a little arrangement. Okay, now we have a cabin and we have some trees, but the background's really plain white, so we want to make sure that we've put some color back there. So to do that, I'm going to actually zoom in a bit so I can see the whole document. Right now I'm kind of half on, half off. So I'm going to go over to my zoom indicator here, and I'm going to go up to about 66.67% so I can see the whole document. Okay, now the next step is we're going to just take our square tool, rectangle tool, and we want to make a square over the whole thing. This is kind of like a background fill, but it's a different way of doing it. We're going to start with a big square. Everything's covered up. Don't worry, it's still there. It's just behind everything for now. So we just made a big square, and we're going to change the fill. So make sure fill's on the top. And we're going to select this little gradient swatch that's in our swatches palette. Now it's white to black and it's going left to right. We're going to create a sunset, so we want it to go top to bottom. So we need to switch tools. We're going to go right over here and click on this icon, which is the gradient tool. Now the gradient tool is going to change directions. I could go diagonal or whatever way I want, but I want to hold my shift key and go straight down. When I let go, you'll notice that the gradient completely changed to horizontal. Okay, it's still kind of boring and gray, a little depressing for a sunset. So I'm going to have you click on the gradient tool, gradient palette right over here. Now your swatches are right above it, so we can do something really neat with this. We're going to select some colors up here. We're not just going to click on them, we're going to click and drag the colors right down into the slider bar. And what you'll notice is it changes your whole sunset. So I'm going to find some colors I think would be nice in a sunset here. Maybe I'll even put a little green down toward the bottom so it looks like grass. Maybe up toward the top I'll put some dark blue for stars in the sky. Now the problem here is I've got white. I don't really want white up there. So if there's a bucket down here you don't like, you can pull it straight down and drop it off and it'll disappear. And I can slide these around and customize the arrangement. Maybe I want less yellow and more green, so I can pull that up. I kind of like the black and sort of grounding it at the bottom. So I've customized my sunset, and now I'm just going to go Object, Arrange, Send to Back, and there's my little scene right back where I had it. Okay, now sometimes you put your scene back and you realize you need to change your colors a bit more. I think I might even add some brown to the bottom here, and then change that green to be a little lower so my sunset creeps a little further down, so you can make some adjustments with that. So that is how to create your forest and your custom sunset. So things we learned in this little piece were how to duplicate using your Option key, and also how to create a gradient custom sunset. And gradients can be customized all the time. I really try to steer clear of using the ready-made gradients in your palette because Illustrator's got so many options for you to make things more custom and more unique. Okay, we're going to move on to the last step, so I'm going to close out for now, and next we'll be working with some items in the sky.